The National Bureau of Statistics in its June inflation data reported a year-on-year decline on food inflation from 22.28% in May to 21.83% in June. With the continuing insecurity challenges that have continued to threaten farmers and the issue of flooding, many say these data may not match the reality on ground. Well, Nigerian farmers recently warned that the country may return to food importation to augment what the country currently produces if the issue of insecurity persists. Mrs. Edobong Akpabio is a farmer and the current chairperson of the Agric group of the LCCI. She joins us now. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Akpabio.
Good morning.
Great to have you.
Happy
Good morning
holidays.
and happy holidays.
Thank you so much.
Well, farmers don't rest anyway.
At all.
Farmers don't go on holidays
At
because
all.
you have to feed the nation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, tell us, you are a farmer. Can you paint a picture of what food production is like for you at this time?
It's like 2 steps forward,
3 steps backwards.
5 steps
Five.
backward.
Oh, wow,
okay.
okay.
That's even bigger.
So we're trying so hard, to be able to cover for all the gaps that have popped up in the past 5 to 6 years. And it's looking like we have a lot of, drawbacks, something keeps pulling the carpet from under our feet. We've been struggling with the security situation. And for every farmer that is attacked, that is killed, injured, we have 5-10 farmers who do not go back to the farm. So there's fear. So that means that fewer farmers are producing. So few food out there. Then we have issues of the innovations that we can tap into to make production more efficient and more effective. And that has to do with elements like irrigation and all of that. So we don't have to wait for the rain before we can farm.
Yeah.
But now we have the rain and it is a flood.
Yeah.
So, we're pushing and it's pulling. We're pushing and it's pulling.
Okay, but still looking at this, insecurity issue, what do you think, the government can do now to make farmers more comfortable and not so fearful?
It's just to handle the criminals. That is what we expect government to do. The reason why we can go about our normal business is because we know we are safe. And the government has a responsibility to keep us safe. Otherwise, we will take our decisions regarding our safety and it's affecting.
And how can farmers protect themselves?
We are trying to do that because we discovered that we were not getting the kind of help we required from the government, maybe because they are overwhelmed. And we began to farm in clusters, and that's why you're still seeing farming, actually. So we believe that, down south here, they can't really compact like 100 people, in the farms like that, and nobody will know. So when you're a lot in a particular location, you really feel safer.
Feel secure.
So people are farming now in a lot more clusters. But it's difficult in the rural areas because you don't have your farms in the same place. So this is what we are redesigning, where you can have like 100 acres and then you can have like 50, 60 farmers work there. So they feel safe rather than them being in their different small, farms and alone. Where they are, become pickings for these criminals. Yeah. But that's just what some of the things we are doing. We can't tell farmers to carry guns. Their cutlasses probably also will not help. So we are trying to see what we can do to just ensure that we are still running our businesses.
Sure. All right, let's look at some of the incentives that governments have tried. The major one, we know about the anchor borrowers that the central bank have been, rolling out. And a few months ago, we talked about releasing some grains, from the strategic reserves, to farmers. And, of course, recently we just heard that they're talking about subsidy. In fact, about 6.15 billion naira of subsidy has been approved for the first batch of farmers. When we talked to our first guest, some of the questions he raises: who are these farmers.
Receiving these
How are
funds,
these,
yeah.
initiatives impacting, on these farmers? Those are the questions that, I mean, for him as a researcher, he would really want to know. So, I mean, you are a farmer. How are these coming up with you guys?
The CBN has been super supportive, I must say. But for the CBN, I really do not know if we would have had any food now. The Anchor Borrowers scheme was a great one because it helped to actually boost the production of cash crops, especially rice. We now know, as a result of that funding, that we can produce rice. So it's been a great effort on their part. Now we have this subsidy. We get to hear that we have for 1.2 million farmers, 2 million farmers. Media tell us some of these things, and it's music to our ears. But just like the former guest mentioned, we are interested in how are you compiling the list of these farmers.
Okay.
We want to be able to see transparency. We want to be able to see openness. And I think it's high time. If you can tell the number of filling stations we have in the country, you should be able to tell the number of farmers you have.
Absolutely.
So there should be maybe a central portal that people can go log in. Now it's easy. Technology is here. So you can give the coordinates of your farm. You can actually go register. You can produce all of that. That is some of the things that Nestle did when they came in with the microfinance bank and they were providing financial support to farmers. They will ask you for the coordinates of your farm and they will come visit the farm. They don't even need you to be there because they know where they are going. So we can explore that. So we can have some openness and transparency. And one of the issues that bother us a lot is the monitoring and evaluation. You have a lot of all these initiatives, you have a lot of all these schemes, but nobody tells us what's the outcome. What was even the objective? Besides helping farmers, what was the objective? We want to know so we can match it, with what came up.
I know if it was
and
actually
then
met.
let's get everyone on board. We have risks. This flood is a risk. And if and look at it this way, farmers is not all about planting. There are livestock farmers. They also are going to be beneficiaries of all of these schemes and initiatives. We need to be able to, build our risk assessment so we can also have objectives for these schemes. We look at all the risks and then we look at all the outcomes. Otherwise, we just keep seeing figures in the media and it doesn't translate to anything.
Yes, I'm talking about flooding. The rainy season is here. How are you farmers, handling the floods?
It's part of the risk of the business. Number one, how did you set up your farm? Because if you are on a floodplain, it's rather silly to come crying that flood will come, And we also look at that, and then we look at insurance. We need to embrace insurance. We need to look at ourselves as business people, and have these risks that we cannot manage, and have those who manage those risks to come, work with us. We've been shying away from insurance because, we don't believe in insurance. God is our insurance. They don't pay claims. We've heard all of that.
Right.
But let's be very serious with ourselves. This is business. And that's what insurance companies are here to do. So when we embrace them, we reduce our risk. When we do what we need to do in what we know how to do, I don't, like I said, if I'm going to go and plant on a floodplain, or you build your, you are really.
Well, but you are saying this, but we know that when we talk about farmers, when we talk about farming, you think about peasants. You find out that perhaps those in the villages are the ones farming is meant for. Yeah, but seeing someone like you and well-educated, you are in advocacy, group. How do you ensure that even those so-called peasants, because they seem to be the ones who are doing most of the farming,
majority.
Commercial farming doesn't seem to be that so big here. So how do you coordinate all of this?
Yeah, Chimezi, I think one of the things we need to do is change the impression we have. Whether you like it or not, the farms are in the villages. But not everyone, farms like a villager. So we need to change that impression. Our town planning laws do not put farms in the urban center. They put them in the rural areas. So if I have a farm, I would have it in the rural area. But we call them smallholder farmers. We don't call them peasant farmers. That was a colonial title, and we don't want to work with that. We call them smallholder farmers. Essentially because what makes them that peasant that you say is because their farmlands are small. And most of the time they are farming subsistence to eat, to have something to eat. So when they have a surplus, they can now sell, you know, to obtain other products. Now the government, states and federal, trying to encourage them to come in groups, cooperatives, form cooperatives, so you can actually know who they are and you can work with them. If you go to villages, you can ask the village heads, they can tell you the farmers and put them into groups for you to work with. And what are we trying to do? Like you rightly said, they actually, I mean, when you aggregate them, they actually produce the much food we are having right now. But we are saying we can increase their productivity. On that same land, they've been farming for like centuries. They have not been doing it well. So their yield still comes out very low. When, I mean, the same efforts, the same resources, low yield, they could do better and get better yield. So that is what we're trying to do with them. But commercial farmers are here. Let me tell you that. Commercial farmers are here, and they are doing very well. They are actually producing, because all these risk factors we're talking about, they have already provided for them. So when we have, like this case of flooding, you won't hear much commercial farmers complaining about this flooding because they have already taken care of it. Yeah. So it's actually their food products that you have, that you're eating. When the smallholder farmers suffer, you know, all these consequences of this bad weather and all of that. So they are working in groups. You have a lot of them. We have a lot of organizations working with them, trying to get them good education, get them good inputs, you know, and provide them with extension services that provide advice for them to be able to do better. So a lot of them are doing better now.
Okay. Before we let you go there, I'm sure you have seen the latest figures from the National Bureau of Statistics, telling us, of course, how the inflation has been coming down, particularly, I mean, we're talking about food inflation now. And but when we go out there into the market, what we're seeing seems to be different.
A different story.
I mean, from the farmer's point of view, where is this decline coming from?
Yeah.
Whenever you see forex rates go up, it affects the cost of inputs. That's the first thing you need to see. So NBS has a whole lot of, you know, elements it's looking at to be able to give us their own view about the economy. But the direct hit for us is the FX. When it goes up, it affects our inputs. And when it affects our inputs, it will affect our output. So much as we are working so hard to ensure that this is what happens, we want to meet with the NBS statistics, but a whole lot goes on behind the scenes, you know, that doesn't deliver on all of that. It's just economics, really.
Simple economics.
So what does the rest of the year hold for us in terms of
food security?
Security, of course.
We need the security situation to improve, because this is the peak of the planting season. So we have a lot of people who cannot plant, and that is really, really sad. We haven't recovered from the COVID-19 pandemic, you know. Yeah. A lot of farms shut down after the COVID, and they haven't been able to come up. So already there is COVID wala, there is security, which we are battling. Too. And now a new variant coming up. So those are some of the things that we want to be able to overcome. We need to overcome that to be able to move on. And then we need a lot of support to improve our productivity in terms of technologies for irrigation, for climate-smart agriculture. We're beginning to talk about climate-smart agriculture because whether we like it or not, climate change is here.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So these adverse weather situations are affecting us. So if it's not flooding, it's excessive heat and all of that, like we had last year. Rain stopped in some parts of the country from like June. I'm talking about the south. June which is actually the rainy, and came back in September. I don't know whether you can imagine what happened to the farms then. And then we're hearing flooding in the north.
Yeah.
You know, cleared out a lot
Extreme
of
weather.
farmlands. It
Okay.
was sorry.
All
It
right.
was, so we need support in those areas. We need extension services back, you know, in agriculture to
All right.
support the efforts of the farmers.
Okay, let's just hope
Yeah.
we get there, and so we don't go hungry.
Get it right,
Eventually.
because,
Thank you very
Pray.
much, Ms. Edovong Apavio. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you,
you.
Chimeze.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.